Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel. I just this morning saw the trailer, I don't know if you've seen it yet, for the new Are You Afraid of the Dark film that's coming. Well, I say film, I think it's just direct to TV. I think it's just coming straight to TV, to Nickelodeon this fall. But I didn't have the time to look into it too much to really find that out for sure. But it looks like a TV movie. And I'm actually pretty excited about it. It looked pretty decent. It looked like a TV movie, budget-wise and everything like that. But, it looks like the genre it is for children and stuff like that. But I grew up really loving that show, Are You Afraid of the Dark? It was a classic that I really enjoyed. And, growing up, I was always drawn to those anthology series. Obviously, I've talked about that before on my channel. Loved watching the reruns of Twilight Zone and Alfred Hitchcock Presents and Tales from the Dark Side and all of that. And, those more so than something like Tales from the Crypt. Not that Tales from the Crypt didn't have some great episodes and didn't, have a lot of great, greatness in its own right. But I found that something like Tales from the Crypt, because it was, late night HBO or whatever it was, it didn't have to abide by so many censor rules, that it was far more gratuitous. And a lot of times some of the stories, weren't much on the story. They just kind of relied on the gross factor or the gore factor or whatever. Not all of them. Again, there's some great episodes of Tales from the Crypt. Don't harangue me in the comments section saying that's an amazing show. Yeah, I know there's some really good episodes, but I find that to be the case in general with horror. So I thought that would be a good opportunity to talk about for the video today, because I am looking forward to the Are You Afraid of the Dark movie. And one of the good things about those kinds of shows for children especially is that when it's an anthology-like series like that, there's something creepy. There's a scary story. It's going to take the child out of their comfort level. It's going to frighten them with some unknown, with, boundaries, being broken in their life, but only for that 30-minute period or however long the show is. There's a frame around it too. There's a frame, whether it's Rod Serling doing an intro and an outro, or whether it's the Midnight Society, right around the campfire telling a story. And that frame grounds you. It tells you that no matter how, no matter how frightening or no matter how far we venture into the unknown with this tale, we're going to come back to that campfire in the end. We're going to come back, to do a wrap up, and then the show's going to be over, and then you're going to go to your own bed, and you can think about the things that happened in the show, and it might scare you or whatever, but that's not that departure into the unknown or contemplating the unknown is temporary. And that's a wonderful picture, I think, for what horror stories should do for us. And I have a disagreement, just a difference in tastes when it comes to this kind of thing about with Fan Man. Fan Man can't even wrap his mind around why I would like Halloween themed movies and television shows or whatever that are family friendly or child friendly, that aren't like visceral horror. It's just his thing and everything like that. And maybe I'm putting words in his mouth, but this is the impression I've gotten from talking to him. And I'm on the other hand thinking, how can you not love this stuff when it's done right? Of course it can be done in a cheesy way, just like anything else, but I think it's become the rule when it comes to horror films that they are, story isn't always paramount in them. There are exceptions. I know that, and I do enjoy a good solid horror film. Fan Man and I both adore the first Halloween. And that adult level of a horror film can allow for the assertion that there's real evil out there, and you can explore themes that children aren't really ready to deal with yet. So something like the first Halloween, that the boogeyman exists, elemental evil out there exists, and it can't be killed, and it's gonna, at the most it'll disappear for a while, but you'll face it again at some point. It's gonna rear its head. That's life, and how are you gonna deal with that? I mean, that's a great concept for adults to deal with, not so much for children, obviously, but and the reason I like the children's stuff isn't because, I mean, obviously, yeah, you're not a child prof, and, well, people who watch the channel might beg to differ, but you do have to grow up, at some point and realize those adult things and encounter those stories. That's the power of story as well. That's what my channel's all about. But I think that re-encountering some of the shows written for children, I think you can encounter that that package and that how do I want to put it, that construct, which I think we've kind of lost in a lot of the horror films made for adults. Too often now, the horror films made for adults are just about gratuitous frights, gratuitous evil, gratuitous, how much can we twist your mind? How much can we disturb you? How much gore can we throw at you? How much can we just be over the top? There's no psychological function to that at all. That's just spectacle. It's shock value in order to make some money, to make a bit of a splash on a film or whatever. And that's become the norm for horror films. So I think that there's a real utility in going back to spooky stories or whatever that are safe for children, or teens or whatever. Because I mean, I've got to tell you, some of those things are still pretty creepy. Those old "Are You Afraid of the Dark" episodes. But there's a lot of utility in going back to that construct of we're going to take some solid, frightening steps into the uncanny. We're going to go into the unknown, and it's going to be frightening. It's going to be scary. But there are constructs around you in your life, hopefully in your life, but certainly in the sake of these stories, you've got the intros and outros and whatnot, and there's the confines of the time limits and stuff like that. So that's the structure that horror works best in, whether it's for children or for adults. I just think that horror films in general have completely lost that. And like I know my friend Big Al, loves to just like go tearing through Amazon Prime and watching all the cheesiest horror flicks he can. And that's, that's cool. That's what he likes to do. It's his taste and everything like that. But I can't even fathom doing that. I mean, what you're pouring all of that stuff into your head, into your mind, into your soul. And it's not that, I can't watch gore, that I'm too pure for that. No, not at all. But if I'm going to watch something like that, I want there to be a reason. I want it to be structured. I want it to be, I'm just not into licking all the horror frosting I can out there, without any substance or without any, purpose for it, So yeah, that's my thoughts on horror, and that's why I'm looking forward. Now, the interesting thing about the Are You Afraid of the Dark film is that it does look like it's going to take one step farther, which I think is cool. I think this is really neat. In the old, if you're not familiar, Are You Afraid of the Dark, the whole construct around that was a group of tween to teens, anywhere from there. They were called themselves the Midnight Society, and every Saturday night or something like that, they would go out around a campfire, and it would be each one would take turns telling a story. So a ghost story, something like that, they'd submit it for your approval, or the Midnight Society or whatever. I give you the tale of such and such. And some of the stories are really great. But this movie coming up it has that same construct with the Midnight Society there. But it looks like from the preview, apparently, one girl tells a story about a creepy carnival coming to town. And then the next day or next week or whatever, that carnival actually comes to their town. That's fascinating. I love that kind of stuff where the lines between story and reality begin to blur. And now they cross over into one another. And those stories have a real utility as well, because they step up. They step up from the notion that, okay, this is all just temporary. Within 30 minutes, you're going to be out of this world. It'll be wrapped up, resolved in some way or another. And you get to leave this world in 30 minutes. Taking that construct and moving it into a film, taking that format rather, a short little 30, 40-minute format and moving it into a feature-length film, well, you've got to up the stakes. You can't just have, you could do a film, worth of 3 or 4 of those stories, but what would be the real difference between that and just doing a collection of the tales? It's kind of like the Twilight Zone movie they did at that time. A lot of fun, but it was just different versions of the old episodes we'd already seen. It wasn't anything new in terms of format. So I think if you're going to do something big time with a format change like that, I think that's the right call to make to blur the boundaries there between story and reality, because that's something we encounter in life as well. We encounter the breakdown of some of our thoughts of reality and some of the boundaries that we have in place in our life. Oftentimes are just a matter of we've just always perceived that to be a boundary, but then the reality crumbles that it's not. It's not a boundary. It fails us one day or something like that. Certain things we think of could never happen to us in real life. That's just stuff from the movies or whatever. And then one day they happen to you. Tragedy strikes, or our great fortune strikes, or whatever. So sometimes the fourth wall of your life is broken like that. If you want to think of it in those terms. And I think that's a cool idea. So I'm looking forward to the Are You Afraid of the Dark movie. I haven't heard anything about it, so if there's like some expose of how it's going to be woke or something like that, I'm ignorant of that right now. But I can't imagine it'd be like that for Nickelodeon, for something like that. I don't know. But I will definitely be watching it when it comes out, and I will certainly review it. I enjoyed that show quite a bit, and I would love for a, Twilight Zone's ruined. They brought that back, and that's just a piece of trash now with this wokeness and everything. But I would love for a revival of something like Tales from the Dark Side, maybe given an hour or a little bit longer to really develop some of the story ideas they had, because they had great ideas, but you could tell they just didn't have enough time in each episode to really fully develop them. But my interest in anthology series is why I decided to write Tales from the Stacks, which is my own graphic novel on Indiegogo right now. And it's not going to be available for much longer. It really isn't. We're just waiting on the last bit of art to come through, and then it's off to printers and stuff like that. So the time really is dwindling for you to grab yourself a copy any day now, really, or any week now, rather. It could close up because I'm just waiting on getting the last pieces in. So Tales from the Stacks on Indiegogo, I'll place the ad at the end of the video, but that is an anthology series, much like this. We've got our construct of the librarian welcoming you into the stacks, and he's going to beckon you back into the inner stacks where they keep the stories that most people don't want to encounter out on the floor, and he tells you 3 spooky, uncanny tales in succession there, but each one, there's an intro in, there's an outro out, there's something to think about with each one, and then it's over. So I like that format, and people have been responding well to it. So this would be the first of many volumes, hopefully. But, there's another campaign coming up with a Sword and Sorcery book I'm working on as well this next month. So that's all for now. Thanks for liking and subscribing. Please do so if you haven't already. Check out the Indiegogo, and check out my services on the exclusive content for members in the channel, and the editing content and all of that. Information below in the description. And until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into those spooky stories you love. Thanks for watching. By now, chances are you've probably heard of and hopefully ordered your copy of my graphic novel, Tales from the Stacks. But in case this is the first you're hearing of it, it is still in demand on Indiegogo, but it will not be available forever. The in-demand store is closing down later this month as we prepare for fulfillment and for the new campaign for the new book launching in the fall. Tales from the Stacks is a collection of 3 of my uncanny suspense stories in the vein of the Twilight Zone, Tales from the Crypt, and such. They are introduced by a mysterious librarian who's welcomed you into the inner stacks of the library where they keep such tales. And it features interior art by an amazing collection of talent. Illustrator Monk Dave T., the great Kyung Lee, and another artist I haven't even announced yet. And of course the variant covers are still available, Kyung Lee's famous cover, as well as John Malin's amazing work, colored by Kyle Ritter, and then the Dave T. Indiegogo exclusive as well. We have prints, t-shirts, bookmarks by Pablo Romero. So if you haven't checked out the campaign page, or if you haven't checked it out in a while, swing by and see if there's any new content you might have missed. Thanks for helping us reach so many of the stretch goals, and we'll see if we can't reach another one before it ends.